Um, I'm going to start with something unusual perhaps, so please excuse me, everybody. All of you here, let's see how loud you can be in applauding your parents. I hear, and I hope I'm right, on the other side of this building are your parents watching a screen, is that right? Yes. Okay. Parents, if you're watching, can you please applaud your children from there, and let's see who was louder. Okay, we heard you. Awesome. Thank you so much, parents. And you know, this is wonderful that all of us here are to celebrate both the efforts on both sides of this building. So thank you so much. Well, President Tirumurti, Tathagata Bandyopadhyay, and the Board of Governors, I am deeply honored to be speaking today at the Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of Information and Communication Technology, DA-IICT, one of India's finest institutes. Well, thank you for this opportunity and a very warm welcome to parents and families. If you're wondering who I am or why I was chosen for this privilege, so am I. So I asked my astrologer, ChatGPT, and Pat came the reply, "Sir, मैं भी कंफ्यूजिया गया हूँ. आप तो बड़े ordinary आदमी हैं." ChatGPT is always right. Perhaps the point is to hear from an ordinary person. Ordinary people are sometimes the greater force for good when their efforts synergize. A tsunami, after all, is made up of water molecules with gravity as its force. Graduates of DAIICT, you are the molecules of change you want to see in this world. May you find the force, and may the force be with you. Allow me to share some stories from my life, and I hope they resonate with you. Good happens at the intersection of education and values. I was born in Nanded, the youngest of 4 boys, to a Marwadi Banya father and a Ghungat sporting semi-literate mother. My parents were migrants from traditional Rajasthan in search of a livelihood in Maharashtra. Like most parents, they wanted a good education for their children. To them, it meant a value-based education. Their search, half a century before Google, led them to Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education in Pondicherry. So I got shipped at age 6 to join my brothers at a boarding school 1,000 kilometers away from home. We absolutely loved it. The school has no exams, all the way from kindergarten to college. Yes, you can applaud to that. We've taken a lot of exams. The pedagogy centers around a philosophy of integral education. Academic learning is rooted in developing a love for learning and not learning for tests. In practice, it means small classes and progressively greater choice of subjects, teachers, and depth of study. Physical education was just next level. 2 hours of sports every day, 7 days a week, modeled after the Olympics. So we participated in athletics, gymnastics, swimming, and all the team sports you can imagine. Layer onto this the option of pursuing the self's inner work through music, dance, drama, meditation, and of course, an ocean of Sri Aurobindo's tomes for a lifetime of inspiration and study. Now, The question for me is, how did my traditional parents from Rajasthan, making a simple living in Maharashtra, make such a bold decision to send us to a school so far removed from their physical, social, and cultural geography? I may never know. What I do know is that their decision gave us a gift of an education that broadened our horizons in unimaginable ways, while raising our aspirations from a narrow focus on livelihood to redefining life as a search for something bigger than oneself. I'm sure your time at DA-IICT will similarly impact your life in deeply positive and wholesome ways, because that's what a good education does. As your compass into the future, consider Sri Aurobindo's words. The first principle of true teaching is that nothing can be taught. By implication, everything can be learned. Or as Yeats is thought to have said, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Surely by now, the fire of curiosity and imagination is raging within you for a lifetime of learning. Discovery needs a walk through serendipity. After completing my education in Pondicherry, equivalent to a bachelor's but no degree to show for, remember no exams, I somehow got an admission to IIT Kanpur's master's program in physics. Their entrance exam, including a written test and an interview, was my life's very first exam at the master's level. Credit to IIT Kanpur for even allowing me to go through their entrance process, because all other IITs had refused. No degree, no mark sheet, no point. Where all the IITs followed a standard script, IIT Kanpur saw value in a school off the beaten path. Since there was anyway a two-stage entrance process, they created space for an oddball. You will all someday be in positions of authority, and the oddball will show up in the form of a person or idea that does not fit the mold. Individually or institutionally, you can take the easy route and slam the door because you have the power to. Or you can take the harder route and make a considered judgment that is flexible, even if open to some risk. My hope is that you will judiciously consider the latter sometimes. The bet that IIT Kanpur made on me allowed me to mainstream my education and gave me an opportunity to study at Cornell University in the US. At Cornell, I chose to get another master's in communication and then a PhD in education. Wait, what happened to physics, you might ask? Quite simply, I loved the subject, but the subject did not love me back. So I pivoted. It's generally good to pivot in academics or in matters of the heart. Speaking of the heart, even though I spent a decade at Cornell to get my degrees, in my defense, I also found two life partners. A fellow student from Kerala who seemed equally lost at the time, and an idea that grew into a life obsession. The grace and ease with which my traditional Rajasthani parents accepted our Mallu Marwadi and Hindu-Christian union only reinforced for me that traditional does not mean conservative and closed-minded, just as modern does not mean automatically liberal and open-minded. The most broad-minded person I've ever known in my life, who could embrace difference and diversity with the ease with which she wore her ghungat, or did not later in life, was my mother. She prayed every day to a set of gods she inherited at birth, but lived a life knowing that God is a force that is far more expansive and inclusive than any one religion. She lived Sri Aurobindo's wisdom, and I quote, "If a religion is not universal, it cannot be eternal." a narrow religion, a sectarian religion, an exclusive religion, can live only for a limited time and a limited purpose. Back to my other life partner, an idea I've been married to for the last 28 years, now widely known as Same Language Subtitling, or SLS. The story is longer than I can do justice to here, and you can read about it elsewhere. What I can do is share some vignettes that serve as unexpected stepping stones to my work on SLS. It all began with a $99 coupon in the mail from Continental Airlines for a round-trip ticket from anywhere in the US to Ecuador. That was a godsend for a student who loved to travel and needed a research topic. Literally after landing in Quito, still carrying my backpack, I walked into a family restaurant downtown. Cotopaxi, a breathtaking snow-capped volcano just shy of 6,000 meters, towered over the city. Just as I finished my lunch, Gloria, the matriarch who ran the restaurant, asked me, "Where are you from?" "India," I replied. She froze momentarily and decided that she would not charge me. Then she asked me if I needed a place to stay. As a matter of fact, I did. So she offered a guest room at her home at no charge. That evening over dinner with Gloria's large family, she began narrating her story. Several years back, her daughter, who happened to be dining with us, had a brain tumor. The family scrounged for resources and somehow managed to get her to the US through a distant Ecuadorian connection who was married to an Indian surgeon. And that surgeon went out of his way to help them out. The surgery went superbly, and the daughter returned to Ecuador to lead a perfectly healthy life. Gloria had been carrying a sense of gratitude for an Indian all those years. I just happened to be the first Indian to show up at her restaurant. Gloria began calling me hijo, or my son. Over several trips back to Quito from my research sites in Andean communities, Mama Gloria would not let me stay anywhere but her home. In your own lives, I pray that you experience the kindness of strangers. When you do, and even if you don't, pay it forward to life's fellow travelers who may be very different from you. I hope you will find your own Cotopaxis, adopt and be adopted by the rich diversity of life and love that surrounds us. Always find new ways of seeing received wisdom, and if need be, master the art of reflecting on and shedding dogmas along the way. I have shed my share of prejudices and learned a simple truth. No one is immune, and we will fail the day we think we are. My research in Ecuador was on the conservation of indigenous people's knowledge of medicinal plants. Knowledge conservation with low-literate Indian communities has its challenges. The experience drove home for me the foundational importance of strong literacy skills. We don't think about it this way, but literacy itself is humanity's greatest invention or innovation for knowledge sharing, only about 6,000 years old. So finding life's purpose for me, I found my life's purpose in 1996 while writing my doctoral dissertation back at Cornell. To keep up with my Spanish and procrastinate from writing my thesis, I like to watch Spanish films. In those days, non-English language films came on VHS tapes with English subtitles. Most of you don't know what VHS tapes are, do you? Oh, you do, some of you do, okay. As a student of Spanish, I wanted the subtitles to also be in Spanish, to be able to catch the dialogue better. At one film viewing with friends, I had an aha moment that continues to define my life. Why don't they put subtitles in Hindi on Hindi films, Tamil on Tamil films, Gujarati on Gujarati films, and so on in all Indian languages? It will make all of India fluently literate. What seemed intuitively obvious back then still has not been tried at scale for literacy anywhere in the world. Same language subtitling is simply the idea of subtitling all entertainment content on TV, films, and streaming platforms in the same language as the audio. Word for word, what you hear is what you read. The logic is straightforward. More than 1 billion people in India, including 600 million weak literates and 250 million non-literates, watch on average 3 to 4 hours of entertainment TV every day. Whenever they watch a serial, a movie, or a cartoon, the presence of SLS would automatically give reading practice to weak readers and motivate non-readers. A small change could literally put 1.4 billion Indians on a path to daily and lifelong reading practice and improvement, just like that. And what would it cost? Less than 10 rupees for 70 years of daily reading. That is the colossal power of communication when a solution drives people's passion. In fact, I'm going to digress a little bit here and just throw out an idea because you're all creative people here. What we're doing for reading, maybe there's an opportunity here for math and numeracy. What would drive people's passions that we could leverage for people's numeracy? Cricket. Everybody watches, okay? It's automatically, people are doing the number crunching in their mind. How could we leverage that? That's a question for all of you to figure it out, okay? Einstein said it beautifully. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. The SLS project imagines every Indian to be a fluent reader in their own or any language. In an unimaginable feat, today we've put all the world's information in every individual's palm. Yet the main barrier to access has more to do with cognition than connectivity. Let me for a moment ask you all to close your eyes for a thought experiment. I will now take away just one of your skills of the many you have, your ability to read. How has your world changed? What has happened to your education? The value of smartphones in your pockets, your confidence, your dignity. Okay, you can open your eyes if you haven't already. 850 million Indians, the overwhelming majority female, are denied the power of fluent literacy. So literacy is not a label, but a state of functioning. India cannot be 80% literate, but where less than 40% can read simple texts meaningfully. Consider the power a fluently literate India will unleash on our economy and indeed the world stage. Every individual with the opportunity to realize their full potential. I believe SLS is a solution that will encircle the world because other countries like the UK and US are adopting it with celebrity campaigns to turn on the subtitles on TV aimed at children. Nearly 3 decades into the SLS project, surely there is an irony here and a question. Which will be the first country to scale SLS for literacy? I hope it is the innovation's birthplace. The evidence-based case for SLS was made at IIM Ahmedabad during my long association with the Institute from 1996 to 2023. My gratitude to IIMA for the institutional base it gave me knows no bounds. It helped us push the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting to frame the accessibility standards for TV in 2019, which mandate SLS on half the entertainment content. The challenge with any policy is quality implementation. Our Billion Readers or BIRD initiative is presently aiming to implement SLS nationally on all entertainment content in all languages through IIT Delhi School of Public Policy, where I've begun a new chapter. The core strategy of BIRD is simple, that the producers of all entertainment content in any language films on OTT, on TV, and in theaters must create at source an accompanying SLS file that has the verbatim text and time codes. In essence, we are redefining video from audio plus visuals to audio plus visuals plus text. Besides the nation-scale social benefits, it will make video completely searchable. And we are not alone in this fight. In a massive victory for media access, a gentleman, Mr. Rahul Bajaj, a blind, Oxford-educated advocate with 2 other blind and 1 deaf petitioners, recently persuaded the Delhi High Court to mandate SLS for the deaf and hard of hearing, an audio description for the visually impaired. And they succeeded in doing that on the biggest blockbusters of 2023, Pathan and Jawan. How many of you have seen Pathan or Jawan? Okay. All of you, possibly, and probably all of India. Okay? So that's the amount of reading that it can generate. That led to MIB drafting the accessibility standards for films now, currently in the public domain for comment. So all 2,000 new films that come up for certification every year will need to submit quality same language subtitling and audio description files. Kudos to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting for these path-breaking policies. And massive respect to the ordinary folk bending the arc of power towards social justice. The story of SLS would be incomplete without a mention of the resistance to change. Whenever you see SLS on TV, know, as Victor Hugo said, no army can, and in this case, could, stop an idea whose time has come. Let me illustrate with a story the kind of resistance one must face. I share it not to embarrass anyone or score points, but rather to convey the realism of system change. And please, please, do not see this anecdote through a political lens. Bear in mind that whatever you assume or conclude could be factually incorrect. So many years back, I was invited to a formal presentation on SLS to the Minister of Human Resource Development, the Secretary, Joint Secretary, and other very senior officers. I had already worked on SLS for a number of years at IMA before I finally scored this opportunity. Before I could settle and open my slides, the minister said, "Tell me what you're going to tell me." Not sure what to make of it, I responded by saying, "I will talk about same language subtitling on mainstream TV for mass reading literacy." They shot back, "No, I'm not giving away their gender. This has nothing to do with literacy. You go somewhere else." They then asked me to leave. I was stunned. It did not matter that a professor from one of India's finest institutes had traveled from Ahmedabad to Delhi to make a presentation on an innovation he had worked on for over a decade. Raw power could that easily trample someone's efforts. I don't think I ever felt smaller or more humiliated. The setback was huge. Because after that, all the senior officers in the ministry would just not entertain any conversation around SLS. But look, the minister is gone, and the idea persists. 18 months later, the NASCOM Foundation selected our SLS project for a prize. At a glitzy ceremony in Delhi, I once again had the honor of coming face to face with the same minister. They gave me the prize and graciously said, "Congratulations, keep up the good work." However, they did not open the door for a follow-up conversation. Oh yes, I tried. By virtue of your education, you will all rise to positions of power. The power to nurture what's good and to prune what's not. Despite your best intentions, sometimes you will err. That's when you will need the power of humility to accept mistakes and make amends. The minister in question did not have the grace. I hope you will. DAIICT's class of 2024, my desire for you is that you too create innovations, stumble on ideas that do good in this world, and persist through walls of resistance because they will crack and crumble. Make your purpose bigger than yourself, your family, or your tribe. Perhaps something that touches the entire nation, and indeed all of humanity. Dear graduates, and the parents, professors, and well-wishers who have helped you get to this point, I wish you all the professional and personal success in the world. Equally, I pray that you find a purpose that leaves this world better than you found it. Congratulations from the bottom of my heart.